Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly massive shift that's happening right now in the world of Salesforce delivery. We are officially moving away from traditional manual DevOps and stepping right into the era of AI-driven AgentOps. If you've been feeling the pressure, accelerating release cycles, the mounting complexity of your Salesforce environments, well, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to look at how platforms like Capado's Agentia are totally redefining how this work gets done. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is the roadmap for our journey today. Section 1 is the Salesforce Delivery Challenge. Section 2, Speed Without Context Fails. Section 3, the AI Context Hub. Section 4, Agents in the Workflow. And finally, Section 5, Keeping Humans in Control.
Starting off with Section 1, the Salesforce Delivery Challenge.
Let's be real. Salesforce developers, admins, and IT teams are experiencing some massive growing pains right now. The old ways of managing releases are buckling under the pressure. And that boils down to a pretty critical question. Where can you actually use AI to tackle complex delivery? Environments are multiplying and release cycles are faster than they've ever been. Everyone is telling you to use AI or fall behind, right? But just turning on a generic AI assistant, that's not a strategy. You have to figure out exactly where artificial intelligence can drive quality and build confidence, instead of just creating more noise.
Because wow, the complexity is only going up. Teams are shifting from single org setups to these sprawling multi-cloud architectures. On top of that, you've got new development patterns like vibe coding. If you haven't heard of it, it's where developers rapidly generate code using natural language AI prompts instead of strict structural engineering. It's radically accelerating how fast teams can build and ship. So delivery is moving at warp speed, but it is substantially harder to manage. If your delivery setup is rigid, it literally cannot keep up with this modern pace.
Moving right along to Section 2, Speed Without Context Fails.
When faced with all these bottlenecks, it's super tempting to just throw AI at the problem to speed things up. But actually, AI without context isn't the magic bullet people think it is. It can actually make things a whole lot worse. There's this brilliant quote from Rakesh, a product lead for AI at Capado, and it perfectly captures this trap. He says bolting AI onto a delivery process without organizational context is like flooring the accelerator of a fast car without knowing where you're going. It hits the nail on the head. You might be moving incredibly fast, but if you're headed in the wrong direction, you're just making a much more expensive mistake. Speed without context just amplifies your risk, creates wider visibility gaps, and leads to a ton of costly guesswork. Think about your generic AI tools for a second. They sit totally outside your workflow. You're constantly manually copying and pasting prompts, and ultimately it just causes fragmentation because humans still have to stitch the whole thing together. Now compare that to a context-aware system like Agentia. Here, the AI agents are actually embedded directly inside the lifecycle. They carry context from one stage right into the next, and they actually enforce how work gets done based on your organization's specific standards. It's the difference between an assistant who just tosses ideas at you and a dedicated teammate who actually executes the workflow.
Which brings us to Section 3, the AI Context Hub.
So how do we stop AI from just making blind guesses? Well, you need an underlying intelligence layer. This is absolutely crucial. We call this org intelligence. The AI Context Hub builds a complete, living map of your specific Salesforce environment. We're talking about your custom metadata, your unique business logic, integration points, internal docs, the whole shebang. When an agent generates code or a test script, it's not just pulling from generic internet data, it's grounding every single action in what actually exists inside your specific pipeline. Guesswork? Completely eliminated. And this intelligence builds across the entire delivery lifecycle. The Context Hub powers specialized agents across 5 distinct stages: plan, build, test, release, and operate. And overseeing all of this is an orchestrate agent. It coordinates these specialized agents, so context flows seamlessly from your initial planning phase all the way to operating the feature out in production. You never have to repeat your work or deal with that exhausting constant context switching.
All right, let's look at Section 4, Agents in the Workflow.
Okay, enough abstract theory. Let's look at a concrete, tactical example of how this practically solves everyday DevOps headaches. Imagine you've got a bug in production. Let's say account names are getting truncated at 120 characters. In a traditional setup, you're spending hours manually digging through flows to find the culprit, right? But here, You just paste the error into the context hub. Boom. The plan agent instantly analyzes your org, finds that an opportunity creation flow formula is the root cause, and then the build agent automatically drafts a Jira user story to modify the limit from 120 to 200 characters. It even provides an XML preview of the fix before deploying it to your dev box. That is what end-to-end contextual problem solving looks like.
And it's not just for fixing bugs either. It is incredible for org discovery and tackling technical debt. We all know the pain of inheriting some sprawling, totally undocumented legacy org. It's a nightmare. Instead of manually digging through a labyrinth of old code, the agent instantly scans it. It maps out your custom fields, lead trigger frameworks, business process flows. It'll even flag inactive flows or duplicate fields, and, get this, provide a justification and an implementation plan for safely removing that technical debt. Now, what's really interesting is how precise these agents get when building net new features. Let's say you have a Jira user story to build a bicycle tracking app. The build agent reads the acceptance criteria and knows exactly what metadata is needed in your org. It creates the custom object, the fields for type and price, a validation rule to ensure the price isn't zero. It even builds a flow that automatically assigns a price tier, Tier 1 for over $1,000, all the way down to Tier 3. But building it is only half the battle, right? You gotta test it. Because the test agent shares the exact same context hub, it instantly generates a robotic test script that perfectly mirrors the metadata the build agent literally just created. It launches the app, enters the Mountain Pro 3000, it verifies that the $1,500 price hits Tier 1, then modifies the price to verify Tiers 2 and 3. It'll even intentionally enter $0 just to ensure that specific validation rule throws an error, and then it wipes the test record to keep your org clean. Absolutely zero manual script writing required. And we can't forget the final piece of the puzzle. Increasing your developer throughput is totally useless if your end users don't actually adopt the new features. That's where the Operate agent comes in. It takes all that rich context from the build and test phases and automatically generates detailed release notes. It can even create highly personalized end-user training guides, like, say, a specific guide tailored just for your sales team, complete with workflow summaries and FAQs. It makes sure the business actually gets real value out of the speed you've just gained. Finally, Section 5, keeping humans in control. Because let's be honest, any seasoned DevOps pro hearing about autonomous agents deploying code is immediately going to feel a very healthy level of skepticism about their production environment. And fair enough. That is exactly why governance guardrails are non-negotiable here. With Agentia, the agents do not have God mode access. They only possess the specific permissions and access limits of the user who is logged in. If you aren't a system admin, your agent isn't a system admin. Plus, there are mandatory human confirmation prompts before any deployment or test happens. And, crucially, for enterprise security, absolutely zero customer data is ever used to train their custom AI models. The mantra here is, agents in the workflow, humans in control. The AI does the heavy lifting, but you always hold the keys. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Take a hard look at your current delivery pipeline. Are you ready to stop just assisting your workflow with generic, disjointed AI and start actually running it with context-aware agents? When your AI actually understands your unique org intelligence, you stop guessing, you stop manually stitching together prompts, and you start building with true confidence. That is the real power of AgentOps. Thanks for joining this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.